Monsters! 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 Yeah. You guys know what the video is about. I'm pretty sure most of you can read. Today we're talking about 5 Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition monsters that are underused at the table that will blow your player's mind when they encounter them. First up, we have a monster from the monster manual that you'll probably think is rather boring at first glance, but trust me, this thing will rock your player's socks. Get it? Like rock your player's socks? Like the rock, like the bird rock? It's a pun. I'm sorry. I apologize. What I'm trying to say is you're gonna rock out with your... Okay, for real though, I get it. It's a big bird. How is that even slightly interesting? Well, first off, it's a big predatory bird, so basically it could fit in almost any campaign. It doesn't matter if you're running a political campaign, a chase the MacGuffin, or fight back hordes of undead enemies and demons and blah blah blah. If your players are outside ever, then this encounter could be plausible. Secondly, the rock is gargantuan size with 120 feet of flying speed that attacks twice in a round in a flyby at a plus 13 each for an average hit of 25 damage a pop, which if it hits with its talon, grapples at a DC 19. Oh, and it has an average of 248 hit points with just a CR of 11. I'm not sure if you heard me the first time, but it flies at 120 feet. That's bananas, and you can quite literally just drop this in on your players at any moment as it hunts to feed its hatchlings. Not only does its absurd flying speed and disinterest in fighting to the death already change some of the usual encounter dynamics for your group, but I'd suggest pairing this with an escort or rescue mission. It's also a great hunting creature to reskin easily with a desert, sand, or Arctic flavor. Next up, we have maybe one of the coolest monsters in all of Dungeons & Dragons, the Cadaver Collector from Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. If you're unfamiliar with this monster, it's basically a big evil construct that goes wherever a battle is being fought and collects, well, cadavers. Go figure. But what really makes this such a cool monster is the fact that it can call forth the souls of anyone that it has killed. Low intelligence, but it can understand all languages. Its AC is not quite as high as I prefer, but it has a solid 189 hit points. Oh, and outright immunity to necrotic, poison, psychic, and bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-adamantine weapons. Oh yeah, and it also gets magical resistance and has a paralyzing breath weapon. Right off the top of my head, I can think of about 10 different plot lines to use this or tweak this to either be a third-party threat, a mini-boss, or an outright campaign villain, if of course you give it a reason to increase its intelligence beyond just 5, or maybe not. Sometimes a big hulking construct that has no shades of gray in their objective can be a great campaign villain still. Okay, a few quick notes if you are planning to use this guy. 1, its summon specters abilities, rules as written, can basically be infinite. To quote the exact wording here, as a bonus action, the Cadaver Collector calls up the enslaved spirits of those it has slain, yada yada yada, the same initiative count, and fight until they are destroyed. They disappear when the Cadaver Collector is destroyed. So yes, they don't have any form of a cap on how many the Cadaver Collector could have out at one time. And 2, if you're planning on using this guy, one tip is to keep the fact that it understands all of the language, but it's mute. To be honest, that's basically one of the best parts of the Collector, because as a Dungeon Master, now I get to have all of its creepy little ghosts talking for him with a plethora of voices and gruesome wounds anytime that the PCs actually get to interact with this villain. Oh, and just because I find that last bit fascinating, it might make for a really awesome friendly NPC if you have one help the party. It could have a very Wall-E or Baymax vibe to it, and maybe trying to stop other collectors who are malfunctioning and trying to kill everyone to collect souls. Just a super, super awesome monster with so many different flavors with how to use them. Definitely one that I think the players will remember for a very long time to come. At number 3, we have, without a doubt, one of my favorite Underdark monsters of all time, the Cave Fissure. This thing is just a meager CR3, and let me tell you, It will fuck up your party if they're not careful. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for over 2 decades now, but honestly, my first exposure to the cave fissure wasn't in-game messing up a party, but rather through their description by none other than R.A. Salvatore when one of them caught and nearly killed Dritz. Look, I get it, people don't like Dritz, whatever, but it was very entertaining. But there was something about how terrifyingly he wrote this creature that grabbed my attention, and since then, I've used this creature a few times, and each time the players were completely caught off guard, with one of them suddenly being hauled off the grounds towards basically imminent death. Literally fishing for food in the form of an adventurer not paying attention. The cave fissure is so good. They make for an incredible encounter because they leave the players with very few choices at low levels. One of these might even outright kill a PC right in front of the others with no way for them to get up and help them. Also, they're usable in dark forests and shadowy canyons, not just the Underdark. And the writing team for 5e left us a little golden nugget when they included a tidbit that cave fishers might even be trained and used as beasts of war by both hobgoblins or even chitines. Next up, we have a very flavorful CR5 undead monster with the aboleths. Look, I get it, it's just another undead, and in a way, that's fair. But the aboleths is a little treasure trove of evil from Tome of Foes that doesn't get enough love. It has a very meager HP pool at an average of 40, but it has every damage, resistance, and immunity you can think of to offset that a bit. But what makes this monster such a great encounter is its background with blasphemous secrets. Quote, "Every aboleth is racked with a horrifying insight that torments what remains of its mind. In the presence of other creatures, an aboleth seeks to relieve this burden by sharing its secret. The creature can only impart a shard of the knowledge that doomed it, but that piece is enough to rack the recipient with temporary madness. The survivors of an aboleth's attack are sometimes left with a compulsion to learn more about what spawned this monstrosity. Strange phrases echo through their minds and weird visions occupy their dreams. The sense that some colossal truth just sits outside their recall plagues them for days, months, and sometimes years after their fateful encounter." Sliding over to the stat block, and these guys throw psychic damage, which can drain even the toughest barbarian, and they attack multiple creatures every round with attacks that cause the players to hit each other. So basically, we have creepy ghost desperate for help that confuses the party into attacking themselves while leaving them with terrible dreams, and allows you, as the Dungeon Master, to catapult a story seed right into the campaign basically instantly. If this, like I assume, is a monster that you haven't used with the party much or at all, it's definitely one that's going to throw them for a loop. I think this guy has everything, and even against a high-level party, a pair of these at the entrance of a dungeon to serve as a foreshadowing event of what's to come with their shattered minds would make for a worthwhile encounter. And finally, our 5th underutilized monster is the Nivix Cyclops from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Now, before anyone tries to string me up for throwing in a Magic the Gathering monster into their Sword Coast Adventures game, it won't matter for this one. It still has plenty of Magic Did It flair to fit right in. At first glance, you might assume these guys are constructs, but they are in fact Cyclopes, aka giants. And while it is true that their stat sheet is more on the simplistic side, these are very targeted monsters against a caster-heavy party. Not only do they have magic resistance, but they also have a very well screw you wizard reaction called vitalization. I'll just read it because it's crazy mean. Immediately after a creature casts a spell of 1st level or higher within 120 feet of the Cyclops can move up to twice its speed without provoking an opportunity attacks. It can then make one slam attack against any target of its choice. So as far as monsters that your players haven't seen before that will make for memorable encounters, I mean, this guy is exactly that and then some. Your party is going to be caught off guard. They are going to panic the first time it uses this reaction, and they will not have any idea on what to do next for at least the first round or round and a half. Trust me. So there you have it, 5 awesome monsters that do not get enough love in 5e. But the question is, what monster do you think I missed that threw your players for a loop? Also, have you ever used any of these monsters in this video? And if so, how did your players react? Let us know in the comments down below. I, of course, want to give a huge thank you to all of my amazing patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, it's because of you that I can keep doing this, and so for that, I'm incredibly grateful. If you guys like what I do here, you want to support more content like this and snag some rewards for yourself, welcomeadventures.com is really a great way to do that. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I'd love to have you subscribe. I put out videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more, so if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit the subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.